Cool, and we're recording. So today I'm having a chat with Dek Wilson, who's a farm manager, a volunteer firefighter, and we were introduced by Roger Hannay of Hoka One One. How you doing, Dek?
Yeah, morning. How are you?
Very good, mate. Right, I'm going to have to look down at my pad to read this out just to make sure I get it right. So earlier at the beginning of this year, back in February, you completed a 113-kilometer triathlon in 20-kilogram firefighter outfit to raise awareness about depression and suicide within the emergency services.
Yes. I did do the whole lot in my fire kit. A few people asked me how I actually did the swim in that. But I did the Geelong 70.3 Ironman and did the run section in my full kit. In
30-degree heat.
Yes. Yeah.
Love it.
It was a good challenge.
Cool. So I thought we'd start there, but why don't we, or I thought I'd start by mentioning that, but why don't we sort of go back, and I know we've spoken last night about your story. So why don't we start there and just share your story leading up to that, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure. I'll try and keep it short and sweet. I grew up in Mount Beauty, a small country town. Parents owned a motel there. I was a bit of a skier. Once leaving home, I guess, I basically was a worker. I just worked forestry, power lines, farming, all sorts of stuff. And I never done any physical activity, I suppose you could say, cycling, running, any of that stuff for nearly 20 years. And as we were talking there earlier, it's a multitude of little things that seem to have come together that basically turned my life upside down on its head and made me stop and really have a look at what I was doing with my life. In a couple of year period, my dad passed away with a heart attack. My youngest daughter, Miranda, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and my oldest daughter was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. The diabetes really turned our life upside down. You're told doom and gloom when it all starts out. And physically and mentally, it was exhausting, absolutely exhausting, up every 3 hours. It's an invisible disease, so a lot of people don't understand it. And it takes a hell of a lot of management. But for a child to have it, as a parent, you're basically living it. It almost feels like some days you have it. So we actually got to a point where we're exhausted. We'd let the gremlins, I guess you could say, really get in our head. It was affecting our relationship with my partner, our lives, our friendships, our work. And I was lucky enough to have a lady start messaging me. She heard about what was going on. I'd met her a couple of years ago at a barbecue, and just telling me she was going through her own family issues then at this time. She was in the States on deployment with her husband, Australian military. And it all was just little things like that that started make me realise that I don't have to be the rock for my family all the time. As a dad and as a partner, don't have to take on the whole burden yourself. It's a team effort. And I was lucky enough that my partner and I have a great team relationship there. But you still try and do what you can and be the rock for the family. So there was many nights, I guess you could say, on the end of the bed, sitting there, just wondering how the hell we're going to do this. And I guess it all sort of hit me even harder when my oldest daughter was diagnosed with arthritis. And she used to do triathlons, was a good little swimmer, and all that went out the window. But she's a little goer and had this dream of getting into emergency medicine. And I told her she had to pull out of school for 3 weeks. And she turned around to me and said, "Look, Dad, I'm not stopping school. It's an invisible disease because I don't look sick. People don't think I am sick. I've got a dream and a goal I'm working to, and I'm not going to let this stop me." And it was a wake-up call to myself of, dude, what are you doing to yourself? Like, turn your life around. Your kids are encouraging you to do stuff.
Yeah.
I need to encourage my kids. Like, I want to show my kids that no matter what life throws at you, anything is possible, no matter how hard it is, no matter what medical condition happens, you can take on the world. And I think we need to show our kids nowadays that anything is possible, anything's achievable. There's so much doom and gloom out there and heartache, and it gets passed on to them. And I look at my little girl, Miranda, who's 7, who is obsessed with Bethany Hamilton. And we do pump sites every 3 nights and sensor changes every week. They do hurt, bloody hurt her, and she hates doing them. But we watch a Bethany Hamilton movie. She says every time before we do it, who's strong, and she says Miranda is and Bethany, and it's little things like that. I think if the kids can do this, then what's holding us back? And I think we put too many limitations on ourselves nowadays. So that's basically a little bit of my story, I suppose. I then decided that I was going to do a 24-hour spin bike challenge for the Royal Children's Hospital. After spending a lot of time there, they were just phenomenal. And I did that event. It hurt like hell. I did about 400k on the spin bike. But what really got me was the community, the support from the community and how they can come together to help each other when you need to. It's mind-blowing. It just absolutely blew me apart. And then I've done another couple of other events over the last 12 months. I did a 7 Peaks ride in summer in the middle of snow. It snowed every day for us for type 1 diabetes, air climb, and a few events like that. So it's actually become a bit of a bug, I think. They say you need to find your drug, and this is what it's about. It's about showcasing to others that you can turn your life around. You can be a role model to your kids. You don't have to be a super athlete or a superstar to make a difference in someone's life. And I always have fundraising events for what I do, but it's more about encouraging others to step up and take on their own little bit of an adventure. And it can be as simple as stepping up and going for a run. You might have run in 10 years, or going for a bike ride, going out with the kids each morning or Saturday. It doesn't have to be running from one end of Australia to the other or something like that. It's just encouraging our kids, I guess, that people are there to help them, and they look up to people. And I think that's the big thing nowadays. They have heroes, and I think we need to be good role models for them.
Yeah, definitely. And so going back to, I can definitely relate to the majority of your story being sort of in that position when you're feeling a bit down, you're trying to, I suppose, do something for your family and do something for your kids and be that role model. What was the, I suppose, the sequence of events for you, or the thought process around getting out of that funk? Because you mentioned a couple of things like that lady reaching out, and then a few, I suppose, moments with your daughter and things that they said. What was that shift in mindset for you, and what advice would you give to somebody who's sort of trying to get out of that funk themselves?
So there's a few little things on that one that all come together, I guess you could say. When my dad passed away, he was in his 70s, but he always helped people. He helped the elderly a lot, and I never really understood why when I was younger. And I found out about my childhood after he passed away. I was adopted when I was younger. I was lucky to end up in a really good family, but I found out that I'd gone through 10 foster homes before I was 2.5. I'd had abuse, fractured legs, all sorts of stuff. And I guess it was a multitude of little things all coming together that hit me like a ton of bricks of, what am I doing with my life? What role model am I for my kids? And I didn't want to be that person like my biological parents had been. I wasn't going to allow that to happen. I wasn't after superstar status. I wasn't going to be a super athlete, but when my daughter gave up her triathlons, I'm like, I've never done a triathlon. I'm going to show her that she can get back into it and really do it. And same with my youngest daughter. I wanted to be the role model for her that just because she's got diabetes, she can achieve anything she wants to. And I've been lucky to surround myself. I think that's the biggest thing, is the group of people you hang around with, I think makes a big difference. I was lucky enough to find a coach, Justin Morris, who is also type 1 diabetic, who's never doubted me for a minute. He's encouraged more than just coaching, but he's showed my daughter there's so much more to life with diabetes. It's not going to stop her. It really isn't. And I think that's the whole point. We all have bad times. We go through hell a lot of the time. I went through a terrible workplace accident. It was all little things that had built up to where I was. And I'd let it just dig the crap out of me and put me in a hole. I was a horrible person to be around, to where I started getting out on my bike. I hadn't ridden my bike for years. And just the fresh air of getting out there and getting physical, I think made a huge difference. I really do think that is exercise. It's surprising what it does for the body, but also the mind. I think challenging ourselves with events like you're doing, my Ironman, it's 80% mental. It really is. A little bit is physical. And look, I can tell you right now, on my Ironman, the week before, I was sick. I was sick with nerves. I hadn't swum that far, run that far, never done a triathlon on my own. And I think it's putting yourself in a spot where you are uncomfortable, but when your wire's big enough, it's surprising what you can achieve. And it's just getting that ball rolling a little bit, I think. It's easy to be lazy and discomforted and just sit there and go, it's doom and gloom. Or you can sit there and look at, okay, my kids are my role model. How am I going to show them? I'm sitting on the couch and letting it get to me and being frustrated and a cranky bastard. It's not showing them what the world's about. And I think there's so many good people out there now. We don't focus enough on them. And we look at all the big sports stars and athletes. I met Roger 2 years ago at Geelong Ironman, and my daughter doesn't know many other diabetics around. Roger is type 1, and she saw him with a continuous glucose monitor on his arm, and she just wet herself. She was ecstatic that there was someone else there with type 1 diabetes, and he's been a great role model for us. So it's everyday people who are really encouraging others to get out there and do stuff, like 21-kilometre runs every day for 21 days, mate. It's little things like that. I think that we should see a lot more of that posted on social media and getting the word out there that there is always someone there to listen and help. And I think that's my big thing. I haven't been out to raise mega bucks on what I'm doing. I look at it that if I can change one person's perception or help one person to get out of that rut, that event and that heartache that I went through is well and truly worth it. And that's, to me, more personally, why I love doing what I'm doing. It's about raising and helping others. And it's actually listening. I know we put a stigma on mental health a lot, and a lot of blokes too. I think we get in this, it's not cool to talk about it. And it's hard. That stigma's still there nowadays. And I think it's about encouraging blokes to say it's okay to step up, have a chat to a mate. Don't have to talk. You just have to listen. And I think 90% of the time, that's all it is having a listening and helping them out. It can be the little things that make a big difference, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think the sort of common theme from speaking to either the charity or different people on this podcast, these chats I'm having every day is, you don't have to have all the answers. And sometimes, if we were having a chat and all the other person's doing is just firing advice back to you, you're kind of like, well, I just want you to listen to me for a second and stop judging me.
Yeah.
So I think you're 100% right.
Yeah.
So, and how do you feel, because personally, I feel as though the more I talk about it, yes, the easier it becomes. And at first, like anything, it feels really awkward. How's your sort of mindset changed about talking up and speaking?
Look, I found it very difficult, to be honest, to start with. I had that stigma that no one wants to hear my story, no one wants to listen to me. Put yourself together, Dek. Like it's grow up a bit, mate. And you need to toughen up in it. And I've learned over time that's not the case. It really isn't. I'm a big advocate for raising awareness within emergency services for PTSI, depression, and suicide awareness. And there are a massive group of men and women who volunteered and paid, go and help total strangers. And what they see every day is you wouldn't wish on many people at all. And they get up there and do it day in, day out. And the stigma behind a lot of what they see to speak up, and especially within their groups, mates, that stigma is still there of, oh, I'm too strong, I'm too tough for that. And I think we need to peel away a lot of that armour, and talking about it is really the only key way of helping each other out. And I think being a mate for people too, it's okay to stand there and listen to someone, and you mightn't have all the answers, you mightn't be able to help them all out, but to be there and just be there, I think is a big issue. Really make a big difference to other people. It's difficult, I'll be honest, but I think the more and more of us who step up there and say it's okay to speak up, I think that's where we'll change the stigma about it.
Yeah. And you've, I suppose, talking about stepping it up and having or creating more things to talk about, you've got something planned for, well, hopefully later this year, depending on how everything goes. You just want to touch upon what you're doing next, because I think that's another awesome thing.
Yeah, sure. Look, I the last 3 years I've run for the Melbourne firefighter stair climb, which raises, as we said, a lot of support and help for a number of charities who deal with mental health, the Black Dog Institute, Lifeline, and really raises awareness about PTSI in emergency services, suicide. We lose more emergency service workers off the job than we do on it. And it's something that hit hard this year. I went up to Sydney fires or New South Wales fires. I've been involved in 09, 03 Canberra fires, and it's stuff you never forget. And there's so many more people behind the scenes that we don't see of. Yes, we see a lot of firefighters and police out there, but there's so many people behind the lines who work so hard to help us out. There's forest fire management, SES, road crews, the AMBOs, Red Cross, all those kind of people. And I did my Ironman 70.3 for the Melbourne firefighter stair climb, and I finished it. I was absolutely ecstatic that I actually made it. I had many doubts in my own mind that I wouldn't do it. But I felt a little bit empty on it. To me, I finish the event and I go, great, what's next? What's the next bigger challenge we can do? I love pushing myself and raising awareness at the same time. So I had this idea of, just before I started talking to you actually, of I want to run from Sydney to Melbourne. Yeah, it's been done before. I like trying to find activities that haven't been done before. And then I came up with this crazy idea of, well, let's push for running in my full kit for a marathon. Yeah, okay, it's been done too. I have to juggle family, work, and all that sort of stuff too. So I'm trying to put together 10 marathons in 10 days in my full fire kit for that reason. I'm hoping our stair climb event's going to go ahead this year. So I'm just waiting to see what actually happens there, and with everything that's going on around the world at the moment. Yeah. So my plan is to do that and try and get a few people to join me along the way. It's still in the planning process. We're going to do an event for the Royal Children's Hospital next year. We're going to try and do a 24-hour stair climb. And try and do a big ride again for type 1 diabetes. So it's all about supporting each other, raising awareness at the events. All the events I do still relate back to mental health. I think it's so important to show in our diabetes, type 1 diabetes community, how much effort our parents and carers put in, our teachers, they all struggle with it as well. But also our kids, our teenage kids, the mental strain that they go through with type 1 diabetes is huge too. So I like combining it all. It's all for the right cause. It's all for mental health. I've just got to step my game up to start running some more, mate. And take a leaf out of your shoes.
Mate, I love it. So just before we finish, I wanted to go through some quick questions, as you know, that I'm asking everybody.
Yep.
Number one, what's your favourite race?
So my favourite race, I love doing the Melbourne Firefighter stair climb and Eureka stair climb. The atmosphere is great. This year was taken back by one of the speeches from the gentleman there who runs the show. He does an awesome event, and it really hit home why we do those events. Obviously, we know what's going on in Victoria in the last few weeks with our emergency services. So yeah, I really love doing that event, Eureka stair climb, and a few cycling bits and pieces. So the stair climbs are good fun. They're a good community event. I love them.
And so when you're doing those stair climbs or you're racing or running, do you listen to anything?
So in my training, I love music. I really do. I've tried to do the podcast things. I do that a little bit in the morning. I just like music. It zones me out from life. It's out on my bike in an afternoon. It's great. Bit of music, and then turn off when I get to some of my viewpoints and just stop and take in the fresh air and zone out from diabetes, work, life, and take a moment. And I think that's one of the big important things. I think nowadays life's so busy for people, we forget to actually stop and take a minute themselves. And I think that's so important nowadays too.
How many pairs of running shoes do you own?
2 pairs of Hokers, mate.
Lovely. Who's been the biggest influence in your life so far?
So I have 2 parts to this. So my girls are my major influencer. They what inspire me to keep going, especially when I think during events when we all struggle and have those moments of doubt, I can look back and really look at my girls. They're my influencer and driver. But also I do have the big Goggins fan. I'm a bit of a fan of Goggins.
100%.
I think like a few of us are.
Yeah.
But also people like my coach, Justin Morris, he's type 1 diabetic, and never once have I ever heard him complain about diabetes. He just gets in there. He's never used an excuse. And there's so many people like that. I think our everyday heroes are a huge influence. As Bethany Hamilton plays a big part in our family motivation and drive. People like Roger, yourself. I think it's people like that make a big impact on our life. And I think that should be said a lot more.
I couldn't agree more. And do you have a favourite quote?
Oh, look, mate, I have many good ones, but I really do think the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. And it's something my dad taught me when I was younger, and I never really understood it. And once everything sort of hit us family-wise here, I love being able to help people. I never thought I did. But to see one person smile at the end of the race that you made a difference to their life, or you encourage them to get out and go for a run or walk, that's the bit that inspires me. I know for Geelong Ironman, I really wanted to quit in the last 6K. I hurt bad. I felt like I had a knife in my shoulder. I was starting to get pretty dehydrated, and the crowd, I was blown away by it. I really get blown away at the events by the community spirit. Total strangers that I've never seen before running up and patting on the back and encouraging me to keep going. I came past a group there on the end of the event. All I wanted to do, mate, was walk. I made a rookie mistake and didn't wear socks in the run, so I was blistered feet. And they're like, come on, mate, you've got to run the last bit. And I managed to run the last couple of K because of that. And that's where I think finding the right events that you love, the community you feel that goes with it. I've got a great group of people that I don't train with anyone. I train on my own, which is about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So the odd event that I get to and have a good group of people around really inspires me to keep going and watching what they're doing and being able to encourage each other. It's not about winning. I've never done any of my events to get out there and push for first place. I get out there to beat myself on my own competition. And where I've come in 2.5, 3 years with my cycling and events, I can look back and go, I'm happy where I'm at. I've still got a long way to go and a few big goals I want to tick off.
Love it. Love it. And so where can people go online to find out more about you and your adventures that are coming up?
Yeah, sure. So on Facebook, Dek Wilson, or Instagram. We've got a webpage in the making, but we're not quite there yet. So hopefully we'll have that up and running soon. Awesome,
mate. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. And I think you're not just a role model to your kids, but you're a great role model for, I suppose, just getting out there, jumping in at the deep end, and as you said before, sort of inspiring other people. So thank you so much for chatting today.
Oh, thanks heaps, Mark. It's been a pleasure, and keep up the great work, mate. I love your effort. It's awesome, and that's what keeps me going, people like you. So thanks very much.
Awesome. Thanks again, mate. I'll speak to you soon.
No worries. Thank you. See ya.